Alright, welcome back, boys and girls, to another PGBL matchup here, and my Week 3 opponent here is Lucky Wolf and her Worcester Wartortles. And Week 2, we're unfortunately fell to Viz, but we're looking to go ahead and get the rebound here against Worcester, and yeah, so for the first few games of the season, fate was not kind to Lucky Wolf, as she ended up falling to 0-2, so she is actually at the bottom of the conference right now. Yeah, so it's really important that we win a game that we, on paper, should win to hopefully advance to 2-1. So there's my squad. Like I said, I do kind of like the squad I drafted. I think it's one of the more, powerful squads I ever drafted. Have not made any changes yet. I kind of like what I have. So we're going to go ahead and see how we match up here against Worcester. And her team's actually pretty darn strong in its own right. In fact, it has the NGDL3 champion of the Miami Dolphiones, Celesteela, and just a lot of scary Pokemon, but it's a kind of a slowish draft, aside from the Jolteon. Now, the Mega Altaria is going to be a really big problem for me to deal with because I have such few things to be able to hit it super effectively. Celesteela is always going to be a problem, but I do have a few things like Mega Manectric and my Incineroar that it can take care of it. You have to always be careful of that silly little thing that can speed boost. She does also have the Politoed and Ludicolo's connection, so she can break speed parity potentially with Rain Dance plus with Swim, so I have to be careful of that. Aside from that, I feel like I have pretty decent matchup. The Darmanitan's another ex-Dolphion who's going to have some issues against, but we're going to go ahead and see if I can overcome it. This battle does actually have the return to Tapu Null, because I do like Type Null's ability to slowly be able to just U-turn and pivot and just mess with her team. It can take a lot of hits. In fact, I'm actually going to bring one that's a little more specially bulky, so we're going to see how that goes. Her only real fighting type is the Primeape, so I have to be careful with that. But aside from that, I do like Tapu Null's, or aka Type Null's, ability to be able to mitigate damage here. So let's go ahead and get into the match, and hopefully I can pull out that W. So there is the squads, and a bit of a surprise that she's not bringing a Mew, one of her Tier 1 choices. And she also opted to go with Ludicolo without the Politoed, so that's pretty interesting. I'm going to go ahead and see what kind of surprises she has in store. And there she is, so let's go ahead and hopefully try to pull out a win. So I'm going to go ahead and lead with my Mega Manectric, which is always a kind of a good Pokemon. She doesn't have any ground types except for her, she does have Diggersby. So I'm kind of thinking that she's going to go into that ground type to prevent my pivot. I was so close to going for the Hidden Power Ice, but I decided to actually just go for a Flamethrower, figuring it's kind of safer. So I am going to go ahead and get the Mega Evolution. I do get the Intimidate on the Diggersby, which is kind of clutch, because Diggersby relies on its attack stat quite a bit, and I'm just going to go for a Flamethrower, which actually does a good chunk to Diggersby anyway. It does a little bit less than half, so I'm going to go ahead and switch out. Obviously, I do not want to die. If this thing is Scarfed, she'll be able to outspeed me and definitely KO with Earthquake, and there's the Earthquake. I don't know if it has Scarf because, obviously I'm switching out, and Type Null takes that really excellently after the Intimidate, and yeah, she will switch, and I'm going to go out into her Primeape, which is fine because I'm just going to go for the U-turn. And yeah, I'm just kind of fearing Scars right now because both Diggersby and this Primeape could be potentially Scarfed. I decided to go to my Keldeo, which is Scarfed for me, so I know that I should be able to outspeed this even if she is Scarfed. And yeah, she's actually going to switch into Ludicolo, which is an excellent switch, as I just go for a Scald. That is X4 resisted and does absolutely nothing, so I'm going to have to switch out Keldeo again, and I'm just going to go out into my Type Null. And yeah, I'm kind of curious what he's going to do. Like I said, I am specially bulky, though, so he just goes for a Giga Drain, and it does absolutely nothing to Type Null. Although Type Null is getting kind of withered down, and when I got Type Null in the NGDL a little bit ago, I did have some Clerics. I don't really have Clerics, though, on this squad, so it's going to limit the amount of time I really have with Type Null. So here she goes into Primeape. I make a clutch prediction, staying in, not fearing the close combat, and instead staying in, just going for a U-turn. So I know I was actually predicting a U-turn on her end. I wanted her to be forced to show first, so that was a pretty awesome predictor on my end, as yeah, she goes into Celesteela, and I get the switch into Manectric now, which is pretty much the best check I have. And I'm just going to go for a Thunderbolt, and unfortunately it goes back into Diggersby, so I made a really nice pro prediction, and then, yeah, that happens. I thought she might be predicting the Flamethrower again, But no, she switches straight into Diggersby, and now this is kind of problematic. I just go into type Null, pretty much to sack it. I might be able to take an Earthquake now, but no, I don't even take one at that range because she doesn't have the Intimidate on her. So yeah, that's unfortunate. We lose type Null, and I do get a safe switch into Keldeo, which, like I said, I am Scarfed, so even if that thing is Scarfed, I should still outspeed. And unfortunately, I know that this Ludicolo is going to come in, but I'm just going to go for the Secret Sword this time. Does a pretty nice chunk there to Ludicolo, and she is forced to switch out, wanting to save the Ludicolo for later. Going into Altaria, which for the, well, actually, even when it Mega Evolves, it will have the Fighting Resist, because it'll also be part Fairy, so I cannot afford to stay in. But I do not want to give her free Dragon Dance. I decided to go to my Mimikyu, who does have the super effective Fairy move if she does try to go for some Dragon Dances. I still have my Disguise, so I still can survive one hit, and she ends up going for the Substitute, which isn't great. Really good play on her end. I decided just to go for the Play Rough. I really can't afford to let this thing try to set up on me, so I just go for that. It's super effective, gets rid of it, and she ends up just going for the Roost. So playing it safe, getting the HP back to full, and I'm like, okay, if she has Dragon Dance, I still have my Disguise. Let's just go for a Swords Dance. She ends up switching out, so this is pretty great for me. She goes into Celesteela, so I did bring the Ghosty MZ this time, so I do have a way to hit the Celesteela pretty hard. It's going to depend on the EVs, naturally. I'm just going to go for it. I have the Disguise still up. I have the Swords Dance. Let's go ahead and get, maybe give her that never-ending Nightmare. Looking at calcs, this probably won't kill if it's a bulky variant of Celesteela, but I should put it in range to be 2-hit KO'd. So let's go ahead and do that. Oh, that's a creepy animation. I love that animation too. And it ends up taking him down to about 25%, which it means it's definitely physically bulky, but I should still be able to finish it off with Shadow Claw. So she ends up going for the Toxic, which is a really, thinking about it, a bad play. Because the Toxic won't actually break my Disguise, which is what you would think she'd be trying to do right now, and able to just take down the Celesteela, and I still have my Disguise. Now, I am poisoned, so I do have a bit of a turn limit, but with +2, and priority, I should be, going to the races right now. So in comes the Darmanitan. It's probably Scarfed. It outspeeds me. I am Jolly, so that's another thing. The reason I probably didn't kill that is I am a Jolly Mimikyu, so I'm pretty sure this thing has to be Scarfed. I end up going for a Play Rough, and the reason I do that is because I was fearing the U-turn there into her Diggersby, which has the immunity to Ghost. I thought maybe she'd try to, Toxic Saw me a little bit, but no. She ends up staying in, and now I'm just going to go for the Shadow Sneak to take care of the Darmanitan. So Mimikyu is now just doing work, and in comes the Diggersby. I'm thinking, okay, is this thing Scarfed? But it's not! Not Scarfed. Get the Play Rough, and the Diggersby going down. This Mimikyu just going ham. Down to 11 HP. In comes the Primeape. I would be faster than this thing, but, I'm thinking, okay, that wasn't Scarf. This thing probably is. So let's just go for the Shadow Sneak. Yeah, she ends up going for the U-turn. I don't quite kill it, but it does a really nice chunk, and Mimikyu just did so much work against her, and really put me in a good position in going forward here. So in comes the Mega Altaria again, and I'm like, okay, this thing's actually a really big problem now. Let's just go into Chomp. I do have the Poison Jab. Well, let's just go for it. Obviously, I know I probably can't survive an area move, but it ends up being a Hyper Voice, so it ends up being special. And like I said, my Poison Jab is a 2-hit KO. I end up living because I guess she has Defense Investment, Bulk Investment, rather than pure Special Attack Investment. And yeah, I end up taking down the Altaria now with Poison Jab, that 2-hit KO, which is amazing. And Ludicolo comes in, and I end up outspeeding this thing with the Jab, which is actually expected because Garchomp is faster than Ludicolo. So down that thing goes, and her last Pokemon is the Primeape, and I'm like, okay, even if this thing is Scarfed, she'll be forced to lock herself in the move. I still have Keldeo. Let's just go for an Earthquake. And this thing ends up not even being Scarfed either, so I'm going to be able to hit the Primeape, so there we go. A good win there. Mimikyu just kind of broke the game wide open after getting that +2. I think her biggest mistake there, I don't know, maybe that was a purely, I don't know the set on the Celesteela, but if she could have broken my Disguise, she absolutely had to do it there. Instead, she went for the Toxic, which allowed Mimikyu to stay around and get 2 more KOs after that, so definitely kind of a mistake on her end. Maybe she was predicting my switch or something. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, that pretty much ended up letting me go to the races. But either way, good game there, Lucky. Glad to be 2-1 here for the Dolphiones. Next week we play the Kentucky Typhlosions and MrChabry. And MrChabry is a guy I play a lot on this channel. but I have not had a draft league victory versus this guy. It's absolutely insane. He's beaten me, I think, 3 times in draft league format. Although all 3 times, well, 2 of the times are last time in the NGDL, and then of course the time before that was in the first PGBL, I think. And both of those times, he ended up beating me and then just flaming out, and I ended the playoffs over him. So I would still like to get a win here, because I feel like every time we play in draft league format, he just ends up just bending me over. It's pretty annoying. I wanted this win against Kentucky to keep the momentum going strong here, so we'll see how that goes. Anyway, today's question of the day, more Sword and Shield stuff. A host of new Gigantamax forms have been revealed, all of which on Generation 1 Pokemon, 2 of which are exclusives if you bought Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, and that is, of course, Gigantamax, Eevee, and Pikachu. These are definitely interesting because they're obviously not fully evolved Pokemon, and they're actually added to that with Meowth. But then they added, of course, some other Gen 1 favorites, with Butterfree finally getting some love, and, of course, everybody's favorite fire lizard, Gigantamax Charizard. While it's a little bit confusing, but it looks like it's going to have, like, a powerful version of Fire Spin when it comes out. That's what I've been reading. I might be misunderstanding it. But, yeah, today's question today is, what do you think about these Gigantamax forms? I'm not entirely sure how I feel about, like, pre-evolutions getting Gigantamaxes, but, because, you know, that gives you a reason to use, like, Meowth over Persian, you know, potentially. I don't know. It'll depend. Yeah, apparently, Meowth's G-move is Gold Rush, which basically seems like a powered-up version of Payday. Leave a comment what you guys think about this. Some of you guys probably know more about this stuff than I do. I know that Butterfree is called Befuddle, and randomly gives it status, like a random status. Just crazy. Anyway, so leave a comment about that, and see you guys again next time. Later!